morning, everybody. Good morning and welcome here on this beautiful day. I'm Reverend Bonnie Rose, and you are you, and here we are at the Ventura Center for Spiritual Living. Let's stand up and we'll start our Sunday celebration service by singing together, Morning Has Broken. Let us breathe into the stillness, into the sounds and the no sounds, allowing Spirit to draw us into that inner chamber as we listen to the words of our sacred reading.
From Jalaluddin Rumi. Not Christian or Jew or Muslim, not Hindu, Buddhist, not Sufi or Zen, not any religion or cultural system. I am not from the east or the west, not up out of the ocean or up from the ground, not natural or ethereal, not composed of elements at all. I do not exist, am not an entity in this world or in the next, did not descend from Adam and Eve or any origin story. My place is placeless, a trace of the traceless, neither body or soul. I belong to the beloved, have seen the two worlds as one, and that one call to and know. First, last, outer, inner, only that breath-breathing human being.
So let us know that God is everything and nothing, that love is who we are, and that most truly we belong to the beloved. As we join together and sing our chant, I am remembering. In the miracle of existence, as the miracle of existence, knowing that everything is perfect, that babies have perfect timing, and that we were all as beautiful and as innocent. At one time, we knew it. Let us know it again today as we breathe in deeply. And then exhale, gently opening our eyes in love with what is, as it is, and so it is. Thank you. If I had been thinking this morning, I would have printed up Billy Jonas's bio and told you a little something about him. All I can tell you from my memory, because I've read his bio a number of times and, the mind is going, but is that he is an absolutely amazing performer. He's won all kinds of awards. He's got a resume that he's sung with Alison Krauss and Justin Bieber and all kinds of wonderful people. And here he is today singing for us in the Ventura Center for Spiritual Living. So let's welcome Billy Jonas to the stage with some Ventura love.
Peggy asked us to start with a song that I wrote a number of years ago that is a whisper-along song. It's a whisper-along because I wanted something that would embrace and engage those of us who are sing-along impaired. You all are not sing-along impaired, so it's not really an issue. And we don't even say that anymore. Now we say differently, sing-along abled. So. Nevertheless, we started as a whisper-along because it's a wonderful way to invoke sacredness. 3 words, whispered call and response. Hey, hey, hey.
Hey, hey, hey.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That sounds good.
That sounds good.
There will be
Different words. This is just
the rehearsal. God is in the child's eyes, see them wide, wondrous wise. God is in the rain and snow, and each snowflake, this we know. God is in the trees and air, the rocks, the birds, the bees, the bears. God is in the clouds above. God is in each act of love. God is in the oceans deep. Some say God goes there to sleep. God is in the mountains high, whistling a lullaby. God is in the darkest wood. God is in your neighborhood. God is in a place that's near, sometimes just not so clear. God is in.
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 God is in. God is in your strangest pleasure. Some say God is into leather. God is into body piercing. In your nipple, lip, and nose ring. God is in your new tattoo, and your scars and birthmarks too. God is in your brand new nose, your control top pantyhose. God is in the latest fad, except bungee jumping, that's dangerous and bad. God is in your cellular phone. God will not leave you alone. God is in the internet, wondering who's not there yet. God is in Vogue and Spin and Rolling Stone, 'cause God is in. God is in.
God is in.
God is in. God is in. God is in. God is in. God is in. God is in the Christian house, bread and wine and holy cross. God is in the Jewish home. Shalom chaverim shalom. God is in the Muslim. Allahu Akbar salam. God is in the Hindu way. Jai Bhagwan namaste. God is in the dancing pagan. Every drop of perspiration. God is in the Wiccan coven. 12 plus 1 perfect dozen. God is in the Druid song. That's why they go on so long. God is in the Buddhist chair, singing, don't just do something, sit there. God is in the Vatican. God goes there for vacation. God is in the Quaker meeting, sleeping till they start the singing. God is in your guru. How do you spell guru?
G-U-R-U.
God is in the atheist saying, yeah, I don't exist. God is in the flowing Tao, then and now and now and now and now and now. God is in the Rastaman, I and on and on. God is in the Mooney wedding. Who gets who, begin the betting. God is in those Hare Krishna, rub their heads and make a wish. Now God is in. 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 God is in your bank account, sometimes juggling the amount. God is in your ATM, counting bills and stacking them. God is in your college fund, laughing 'cause it's gone, gone, gone. God is in your IRA, adding interest
Every day.
every day. God is in your pocket change, your job is giving it to strangers. God is in the beggar's cup, sometimes God will fill it up. God is in the empty hand, spent it on cheap Almaden. God was in the S&Ls, but left, that's why they went to hell. God is in Walmart, greets you with a shopping cart. God is in your old jalopy, makes it start when it should not be. God is in the Greyhound bus, sitting in back and watching us. God is in tourist class, on a frequent flyer pass. God is in the pilot light, dancing through the night. God is in the radio,
public radio told me so. God is in the microwave unless you use something metal. Then the microwave is the devil. Also, don't microwave with saran wrap. It forms molecular bonds with your food, turns your intestines. It turns your intestines into Tupperware. Don't do that. But God is in your Tupperware, though not the lids, so buy some spares. God is in, 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 God is in. God is in the ozone layer, holier and holier. God is in the atom bomb, or at least the atom bomber's mom. God is in Chechnya, Srebrenica, Slovenica, Serbia, Monrovia, Liberia, Haifa, Kandahar, Baghdad, and Beirut. God is incredulous at all the stuff we do to us. God is inspired by those who fly and those who try. God is insatiable, so sing and dance way past full. God is in you and me, someday God'll help us see. God is in love with love, so live in love and that's enough. God is in,
God is in,
God is in,
God is in,
God is inside of you. All you don't, all you do. God is in,
God is in,
God is in,
God is in,
God is in your greatest doubt. The jury's out, the doctor's out, but God is in, God is in,
God is in,
God is in, God is in, God is in, God is in, God is in,
God is in,
God is in,
God is in,
God is in,
God is in.
God is in.
I guess I should share with you, I had the strangest conversation I've ever had before church starting with the soloist, where Billy came up to me and he said, so you've heard the lyrics to God is in, right? You know it has the word nipple in it. Is it okay if I say that? And I'm like, I said, oh, we love nipples in this church. It's fine. I've known that song for many years, probably about 10 years. Somebody, one of the members of the congregation, Julie, I'm not sure if she's here today, brought me a CD of it. And I said to myself at that time, wow, we got to have that artist come and sing at our center. And I tried to get him for 10 years. But he lives in Asheville, North Carolina, right? Asheville? Yeah, yay. Beautiful place. And it just never worked out in terms of his touring schedule to come. But then finally, thanks to Brian Bemmel. Is Brian here? I know he was here. Hi, Brian. Brian Bemmel of the Ojai Storytelling Festival and performances to go on. We partnered together. We brought him to the center, and he'll be doing that concert that I told you about here on Saturday night in partnership with Brian. So I hope you can all come to it and hear some more of this great stuff. We'll hear some more today, too. So anyway, the name of my talk is God is In, based on this song. Just in case you didn't catch it, God is in, okay? God is in. And I know that in this teaching that we teach that God is in everything, and that may not be a stretch for some of us in some ways. Certainly when this beautiful baby got on stage, we saw that God is in the child's eyes, as the song says, and we can hear God in this beautiful girl's voice. You know, in terms of where some of the other places God is, in our nipple, lip, and nose rings, I don't know. Todd, what do you think? I mean, oh, okay. But then, I know, I pick on my husband usually. But then, you know, we really get stretched to see God in everything, to see God in the atom bomb or God in our darkest doubt. And that's because, you know, I like the dark side. I like to go to the darkness. That's where we're going today, is we're going to look at God, look for God, and to see if God really is in some of those darker places of ourselves. Bye. We love you. Bye. You are love. Okay. So I thought we would look at some things that we probably don't want to look at, and that is our frailty, our fear, and the futility of living. We're going to have a lighthearted romp through those three topics. So I want to start with frailty because it's one of my favorite topics. You know, speaking of picking on my husband, he has told me in the past that I delight in human frailty, and I'm not speaking about, you know, the tragedies, but I do delight in that kind of slapsticky human frailty. Like, you know, he could drone on forever about world affairs, and I would barely react. But if he tells me about somebody who split his pants in an audition, I am there. I am so there. About a year ago, I was sitting in a meeting in church, and the person sitting across from me split his pants. And you know what you do when the person sitting across from you splits his pants and you don't want to embarrass him? You look every place else. You're scrutinizing the ceiling, and you're looking out the window, this view that you've had for 10 years, the books that you've had up for 10 years. Suddenly they're fascinating, the titles you do, everything but look at that pair of split pants. But it's like a cyclops eye. It's just drawing you in till you can see nothing else, and finally you have to say something about it. And I bring that up this morning because it's so much like our human frailty, is that we don't want to look at it. We don't want to look at it, but if we don't look at it, it keeps sort of pulling us into places where we don't want to go. And just like a split pair of pants, it's best to just identify our human frailty and then, you know, change or sew it up or do something about what's going on. Usually before we look at something that feels frail and vulnerable and fragile within us, something that feels like a weakness to us, usually what we do first, though, we engage another strategy, and that is the strategy of cover-up. I have a cover-up story that I want to share with you, and I have permission to use this story, and I have permission to use the names, at least one of them. But anyway, this happened on Palm Sunday, 2 weeks ago, last Palm Sunday, and I was in my office moving from introvert to extrovert, as I always do. There was a crowd of people there getting me whipped up, getting ready to come out on stage, and I heard this furtive tapping at the door, and I said, "Come in," and Annette stuck her head through the door, and she looked at me and she said, "Reverend Bonnie, I have to show you something." So I said, "Come on in." She opened the door, and there was a watermelon-sized wet spot down the front of her dress below the waist. How many of us saw that? Yes, right. And so, of course, the question was, what do I do? And of course, when you have a gigantic wet spot on the front of your dress, you don't want to come up on stage like, "Hi." You know, people will think poorly of you. So we had some suggestions. Somebody suggested that she turn it around and put it in the back because, you know, a wet spot back here is so much better than a wet spot in front, right? We had other suggestions, but my very favorite suggestion came from one of our divine practitioners who said, "I know. Let's tell the congregation that we saw Jesus in that wet spot." Ultimately, Bernie gave Annette a basket, and she loped to the back of the sanctuary like a little smirking Red Riding Hood, hiding her wet spot with the basket, and it dried on its own, and everything went on as usual. But after the service, I thought about that idea, the idea of Jesus in the wet spot, of God in the wet spot, of love in the wet spot. And the wet spot, my friends, my beloved people who are willing to go on this crazy journey with me every Sunday, the wet spot is exactly that thing that we don't want people to see, that thing that we are ashamed of, whether it's our lack or the fact that we're not spiritual enough or that we're half-hearted about our meditation or that we're with a customer service rep and we ripped that person a new wholeness, you know, or that we were a terrible parent. We made Joan Crawford look like Mother of the Year one day. All of that stuff that we're so ashamed of, that we don't want to see, that is our personal wet spot. That is what, you know, some of the more traditional churches will call the stain on our soul. We don't want people to see that, so we try and cover it up. And Brene Brown, the shame expert who does research on shame and speaks all over the world about shame, says that shame thrives on 3 things, and that is secrecy, silence, and judgment. So, what are we going to do differently? Is God in the shame? Is God in the wet spot? Is God in that thing within you that you don't want to show to the world? That thing that you're ashamed of? That thing that you're afraid of? And I would say yes, absolutely. God is in. God is in your shame, your inadequacy, your weakness, your frailty. God is in there hiding as an invitation for something very special. You know the hardest thing in the world? I used to think the hardest thing in the world was to try and be worthy enough, to be enough. But the hardest thing in the world, I think, is to allow people to love us with all of our wet spots, with all of our frailty, with all of our shame. Can you do that? Can you look within and start by loving yourself, recognizing that God is in your shame as well, that God is in this place that feels like it's devoid of love, that God is in there waiting as an invitation for unconditional love, for loving you even when you're not lovable. Look at your lives and see if there's a spot where you can do that and take these words to heart. And if you feel that you can't be loved because of this thing or this quality that you have, continue to repeat to yourself that beautiful whisper chorus, God is in, God is in, God is in. And see how your life changes. Next thing I want to talk about is fear. Last week when I wasn't here, I was at a seminar with our friend Edwin Gaines, who lives in Alabama. And at that seminar, I went on a fire walk. And I didn't talk, it's when you walk on hot coals, right? And I didn't talk about it much before I left because I really wasn't afraid, because I thought, well, I'm not doing that, no way. My feet are very important to me. I hike a lot, and I have to keep my dogs exercised, and I wasn't going to run the risk of burning my feet. But God, in its rascally ways, I'm at this seminar, we're getting ready to do the fire walk, and you're supposed to look inside and hear what your guidance is as to whether or not you can walk across the hot coals safely and avoid getting burned. And dang it, I looked inside, and God was like, yeah, you can do this. It's like, please, another answer, please. But I participated in the ritual. We're all in Alabama, in the woods in Alabama. We're walking around in a big circle. We're chanting. The grass is wet. The coals are right before we start walking around and chanting. We threw these papers, these affirmations on the hot coals, and they burst into flames. Not a good sign. I'm wearing toenail polish. What if I spontaneously combust? Not a good sign. But walking around in a circle, chanting, continuing to ask for guidance, continuing to ask, can I do this? Feeling that there is some divine intervention from entities that follow me around, my sweet dog Stella and my mother, just saying, you can do this, we've got this. Before I know it, I'm standing at the foot of the firewalk saying, where's the faith? WTF, where's the faith? That's what it stands for. And just again, heard you can do this, walked through the fire. Started to cry, not because it hurt, because it was so easy. They say it feels like talcum powder. If you're using talcum powder that feels like that, you better switch brands. It's kind of like talcum powder with teeth. It kind of bites at your feet. But I went through it 2 more times after that. I did a total of 3 fire walks. And of course, afterwards, because I'm who I am, kind of cynical, and I'm from New York, okay, I had to look up the science and see why it's possible. And yes, there is science as to why it's possible. But I didn't know that when I was standing at the foot of the fire. I didn't know that when I was standing there wondering if my feet were going to get burned. All I heard was, you are to do this. And I did it. I did it. And it made me realize that walking on fire, or walking through any of the things that cause us fear, any of the challenges that we have, all of that is just a fire walk. And it is not necessarily what I would call an act of power. Although it is an act of power, it is an act of surrender. The surrender of knowing that there is something greater than me that will carry me through this. How many of us are playing with a God that is way too small? How many of us are playing with a God that is based on our human limitations? How many of us are playing with a God that is based on what we think we know about God? When we are up against something that causes us fear, again, God is in the fear. God is in the fear, existing as an invitation to move into greater faith, to say, where's the faith? And if we can't find the faith, we say, surrender. Surrender. I surrender, God. I know, God, that you are in this, and that you are bigger, and that you are bigger than I give you credit for. So help me. Please help me. God is in the fear as an invitation to faith. And then the last thing, God is in the futility of existence. I don't know why I find that funny. I guess it's because I'm a minister and I'm, paid to have faith. And paid to say things that are not like what I just said. You know, there's a Buddhist saying that says, after enlightenment, what do? You do the laundry. After the fire walk, what do? You go to an animal sanctuary and you scoop rabbit poop. After the fire walk, I went to Best Friends Animal Sanctuary in Kanab, Utah, which is this beautiful, immense, pioneer animal sanctuary where they have, I worked with the bunnies and the dogs and the cats. Some of you saw the pictures on Facebook. And it's an incredible place. It really put the no-kill shelter concept on the map, and they have all these subsidiaries around the globe. They're doing all kinds of work to benefit animals. And I had just done this fire walk, and I was feeling, pretty darn proud of myself. I'm really tough. I can do anything. And then, surprisingly, when I got to Best Friends with all of this inspiration, with all of these beautiful animals that I was there to serve, all of a sudden I felt very let down and very depressed. And I felt the futility of life, that how could we still have the level of cruelty that we have in certain parts of the world? How can we have people that treat animals or children or women or men or other human beings like they're disposable? How can we have a situation like the Michael Vick's dogs, and at least 20 of them were rescued and brought to Best Friends Animal Sanctuary, these fighting dogs that were rescued? How could we have people that would use and abuse animals, abuse innocence so thoughtlessly? And so I was caught up in that, and I have to say I was getting very emotional and very weepy as I was scooping and brushing cats and doing all of the things that I was doing, walking dogs. And then I just kept saying to myself, I know that God is in this sense of futility too. God is hiding in here as something. God is trying to express through me, through this sense of futility that I'm feeling. So what is it? What is it? What is it? And gradually, simply by doing the next right thing, putting one foot in front of the other, simply moving forward, I was still crying, but I wasn't crying for sadness anymore and futility. I was crying because it was so beautiful. I met one of the Michael Vick's dogs who came up to me and licked my hand and wagged its tail. This beautiful animal. Little cat, when I sat down in the cat world, they call it, a cat that didn't have use of its back legs pulled itself over to me so it could lay its head on my lap and purr. And I thought of, thank you, let's do a group nose blow. I thought of just the thousands and thousands of animals that have been helped by dedicated people doing one good deed after another. And I thought about my own futility in life, some of the things that I'm up against, things that I've been trying to change for years, things that I've been working with for years. And I think to me that's the hardest part of living. It's not necessarily the big fear, it's the keeping on when things seem just like they're not working, when things seem small, when you're not getting the results from that prayer request that you put in, when you're not getting what you want from life, and it just continues and continues and continues. That's what I think is harder than some of the big fears. But God is in that too. God is in our sense of futility. God is in there hiding, waiting for us to discover that futility is overcome by taking one small, compassionate step in the right direction, day after day after day, minute after minute after minute, now after now after now. So if there is something in your life that feels futile, that feels like you're not getting the results that you want, that feels like you've been trying to change forever, know that God is in there too. Continue to repeat that whisper chorus, God is in, God is in, God is in, and allow that to move you to compassionate action, to taking one tiny step. And the other part of that is just to trust the ripples of these tiny steps that you will take. So I'm going to close by reading the last lines of Billy Jonas's song, God is in, because I think if you hear this is our whole theology. I'll see if I can get through it without having to call forth another group nose blow. Okay. God is incredulous at all the stuff we do to us. God is inspired by those who fly and those who try. God is insatiable So sing and dance way past full. God is in you and me. Someday God will help us see that God is in love with love. So live and love, and that's enough. God is inside of you, and all you don't and all you do. God is in your greatest doubt. The jury's out, the doctor's out, but God is in. God is in. God is in your darkest sin, and out and in, and out and in. And God is in. God is in. God is Zen. Got us in. God is in. God is in. And so it is. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. All right, here we go. Whew. Just be here with everything that was stirred up. All of the emotion, all of the joy, all of the sorrow, all of the being, all of the doing, all of our human strengths and weaknesses. It's all here. It's all part of this beautiful, beautiful mosaic that we call existence. It's all God. It is omnipresence. It is working through us, as us. It is in everything, and we celebrate that today as we remember that there is one perfect life. That life is God's life. That life is our life right here and right now. And so together we connect to that life. We allow that life to fill us because it has already filled us. We turn our awareness to that life, knowing that it works through us always. So if there is some place in our lives where we are feeling inadequate or fragile or frail, we let this unconditional love that exists beyond all of the impositions we put upon it, we allow that to flood our being and to take us home. And if there is a place in our life where we feel like we may be afraid, where something feels too big, too frightening, we recognize that perhaps we are seeing through the eyes of our small self, and we allow our vision to lead us into surrender, where we understand that there is something that is both immanent and omnipresent that guides us and holds us and carries us through all fears. And if there is anything in our life where we feel like we just have tried for so long and things haven't changed, we recognize that all of this is part of the path. All of this is part of existence. All of this is part of the perfection of God unfolding as God. And we allow ourselves to have faith and trust that the next step that we take will be the perfect next step. We allow that trust to hold us, to embrace us, and to guide us. I give perfect thanks for all of the work that we have done here this morning, all of the play that we have done, all of this goodness and grace that is with us always. I give thanks for the transformation that has occurred in our hearts through our willingness to be together in spiritual community, through our willingness to look within, to even look at places where we don't necessarily want to look, and to feel what we don't want to feel, to look there and to be with it and to bless it and to know that it is part of God too. I give thanks for that. I give thanks for this beautiful teaching, for this beautiful center, as I bless all paths to God, churches, temples, mosques, ashrams. I bless atheists and fundamentalists. I bless everyone, absolutely bless everyone, knowing that everyone is a blessing. And with a heart that is so filled with gratitude and so filled with blessedness, I say, thank you, Spirit, thank you, God. And I release these words into love. And together we say, and so it is.
It's got that dance. Let's review. When you're ready to become, stand strong and surrender, ready to be one. Let's try the dance with the music. Here it goes.
when you're ready to become. Stand strong and surrender when you're ready to be one. If you want to be one with the water, show me the water. Dance with the river, sing with the sea. If you want to be one with the air, rage with the thunder and whisper to me when you're ready to become. Stand strong and surrender when you're ready to be one. If you want to be one with the earth, melt with the mountains, shift with the sand. If you want to be one with the fire, burn your bridges and reach for my hand when you're ready to become. Stand strong and surrender when you're ready to be one. If you want to be one with the infinite, spin with the planets, shine with the stars. If you want to be one with your spirit, surrender. You already are ready to become. Stand strong and surrender when you're ready to be one. Cross your fingers, let's try it. When you're ready to become, stand strong and surrender. Ready to be one more time. Ready to become. Stand strong and surrender. Ready to be one. If you want to be one, show me the sign. If you want